Welcome to Fitch Painting Repairs Garage. Today's project is we're working on the 67 Triumph. We are specifically installing some electronics to try to get the ignition system wired. We robbed Peter to pay Paul. The gas tank on the 63 was still leaking up around the filler neck, and we had a little crack on the front mounting tab we'll have to fix again. And I had to take that off anyway, so I went ahead, instead of buying a new set right now just to verify on this other engine, we pulled the electronics off the 63 and we're going to install them on the 67. So had to build a little bracket to mount the coils because I don't have long enough coil wires. The coils are supposed to be down in here. I don't know what condition this motor was in. Apparently somebody was in work on it. It looks like possibly they were doing some work on the primary side. They had the primary off, and looks like a brand new gasket on the primary, so hopefully they were done and they were putting it back together. They just didn't get it completed. So there's a brand new gasket sticking out. You can kind of see the edge of it right here sticking out. Hasn't been trimmed or worn off or anything yet, and it's sticking out way down here. So hopefully this is installed correctly, and but we're missing quite a few parts. You know, this whole entire bracket, rear lower bracket's missing, and that holds the foot peg and the brake lever arm, which is missing. The control arm that goes back and operates the rear brake, that's all missing off the bike. And the panel on the other side of this box where the ignition was mounted is missing. So we're going to build that panel, but for right now we're just trying to get the bike wired up so that we can get the ignition to crank. And basically you got your two wires that come off, your points set up here, your ignition. They go up, and they had a really long wire because it's supposed to be wired back in this box back here. So I just temporarily built some brackets to mount these coils up here, and we've got to hook it up. Had to create a new lead to hook up to the switch. So we got one hooked up, and we're figuring out the rest. We're going to run a more modern rectifier regulator setup on it. This is what was on the bike, so it should just plug right back in. The coils were definitely bad, as this is the coil that was on the bike, and this lead here is molded in and it was broke completely off, and so this coil is definitely no good. So we might buy another double lead single coil to replace and hook this up if this engine turns out to be a good engine. So we're just going to try to get it to crank start, you know, get this thing to fire up. Hopefully these carburetors were dialed in when the bike was taken apart. It looks like it probably was. Looks like it had been ridden in this configuration. So we're going to go ahead and try to get her back up and running. So I know right now the clutch needs to be adjusted, so I'm just hoping that when he did the primary work and went in there that the clutch is just out of adjustment. It is a possibility that the clutch is bad and needs to be replaced. So, but you know, we can adjust it so it's not engaging, and you kickstart the bike in neutral anyways, so we don't need the clutch to get the bike to fire up. That's the first step we're looking for, is to make the bike go bang, 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 bang. And if we can get them cylinders to fire, we'll be a happy person and we'll move forward with the project. There's several pieces that need to be installed on the bike to get her going down the road. First of all, we need a battery, complete wiring harness for the bike. We're going to build that. We have, let's see here, we have the tack cable on this one, but no tack, no speedo. Speedo cable's missing, but we've got the housing that runs to the rear wheel. We just need the internal cable that goes in there. Headlight's not wired, so we'll have to wire up the headlight and get that going. Missing the front brake cable on it. So we're missing some pieces, and the tank's got some leaking issues in it, and it was heavily corroded inside, and somebody had put the tank sealer shit on that thing, and up on the inside where around the filler neck on the top, it was all chipping and falling and coming apart. So we're cleaning out that tank and seeing if we can get that up and going, and if not, we'll just put the red and black one on there because I know it's a good solid tank, and but it mounts differently. We can mount it back here, but this has got a through bolt that goes through versus the top bolt, so we'd have to drill and tap some threads in there to mount that. So we'll do that if we have to, but I'd like to put that coffin tank back on this bike. I think it looks badass with that coffin tank on there. So stay tuned, stick with us, watch the project as we go. We got to verify timing, we got to build a wiring harness, and once we got that all done, pop the caps off and take a look at the valve lash real quick, before we fire the bike up. I don't want to break anything, I don't want to damage anything, reason being is because these are just finger tight on there, and they're missing these little metal keepers that go on. So we'll go ahead and check all the valve timing on the bike, the valve lash, and the ignition timing points. We'll get the points cleaned and gapped and all that, and we're going to do all that stuff prior to trying to kickstart this bike for the first time. So we don't really want to go too deep into it, but if we can get it go bang bang bang, that'd be happy. If we can get it to go vroom vroom vroom, even better. And if we can get it to go down the road, that'd be awesome. So that's the goal. That's where we're working towards. This one here, I don't know what the situation is going to be with this bike. If she's a runner, if I'm going to keep it, or if I'm going to sell it. It was bought for an investment purpose anyways, and to try to learn. I've never worked on a Triumph before, so it's been a learning process all the way along. That one over there is definitely a good strong runner. When we took the electrical apart, we did find one of the condenser wires was just barely hanging on by a couple strands of the wire. So that's probably one of the reasons why we're having issues getting that one cranked up. So we'll fix that wiring harness when we put that all back together. We might end up upgrading that to an electronic ignition and getting the points up out of that thing. Who knows? But for right now, it's a runner. It runs really good, really strong. A little bit of low speed issues, but it is running straight pipes and velocity stacks. So she's a wide open throttle type machine, but it runs awesome. Wide open throttle, and above 2,500 RPMs, she's really, pulls pretty good. Above 3,000 RPMs, 3,500 RPMs, the bike really, really super comes alive. And a wide open throttle, this bike wants to run. So this one most definitely will be up for sale eventually. Possibly this one will be up for sale, and it is potentially, I'll sell them as a package deal. I got a lot of other parts too. I got gas tanks, I got spare gas tanks, I got the original seat for the other one. What else do I got? I got stock tanks. Besides those two that I have sitting up there, I have one of the bigger stock tanks, and I have one of the little smaller peanut teardrop ones that they had. I've got a couple pair of handlebars. What else did I get? A bunch of exhaust pieces for the bike. This one's was running a 2-in-1 header. I've got a 2-in-1 setup for the other bike as well. I believe it might be the Scrambler setup, that one that mounts high on the left side. But I got to piece them together, put them on the bike, see where they sit and see how they are. But this one's definitely the crossover 2-in-1. So it's a little banged up, a little beat up, but I'm actually kind of digging the vintage look on the bike. So stay tuned for the project. Thanks a lot. Oh yeah, hit the button, hit the like, share it, subscribe it, and do all those things, man. Let's build the business. Thanks, guys.